Tropical storm Melissa formed this morning. Hurricane watch in effect for portions of Haiti and a tropical storm watch up for Jamaica. Flash meteorologist Dave Downey with you. Hurricane season not going away quietly. The peak of the season, late August into all of September, really into the first part of October, has been relatively tame, unimpactful. That is changing with Melissa. We now have a tropical storm in the Caribbean, and once you get tropical storms in the Caribbean or hurricanes, just about every single time they have to make a landfall somewhere. It's not if, it's when and where. There's the hurricane watch in effect along the southern and southwestern coasts of Haiti. And there's the tropical storm watch in effect for all of Jamaica. When you see these S's and H's, these letters close together, that means the Hurricane Center is not expecting Melissa to move very quickly at all, and it's not going to. It's going to meander in the Caribbean likely for the next couple of days, but then, of course, the question will be, where does it make an eventual landfall? Winds of 50 miles per hour, the Hurricane Center saying that it is going to turn into a hurricane likely later on this week. Let's see what their discussion says. Turning into a hurricane by hour 96. That's in 4 days. By Friday, maybe by the weekend. But here is the main takeaway here. There is significant uncertainty. When the Hurricane Center says this, you know there really is uncertainty with the track and the intensity forecast of Melissa. Interest elsewhere in Hispaniola, that's the Dominican Republic, that's Haiti, plus Cuba should monitor the latest forecast. Melissa actually does not look that good on satellite. She looked a whole lot better this morning, but the low-level center and the mid-level center are not located on top of each other, the centers of circulation. And when they're not stacked together with one another, that doesn't allow the storm to strengthen at all or gain any sort of organization. So here's Haiti right here. We're dealing with them moving the satellite again. There's the Dominican Republic off to the east. Again, it's going to meander in the Caribbean the next couple of days. There are two different thinkings with regards to the computer models. We're going to show you the European and the GFS, the American model, above my head here. You can see the GFS, the American model, has Melissa making a landfall likely by the end of the week. By Thursday night into Friday, there's a landfall along the Dominican Republic coast, along Haiti. But the European does not agree at all. I think the GFS, the American model, the model on the right here, is a little out to lunch here. It's been the outlier solution with regards to Melissa. The European model likely has the right idea of it just hanging out here in the Caribbean. Look at this, by Saturday night into Sunday morning, it's still about only a couple hundred miles west, 5 days from now, of where it is right now. Usually, if you don't have really warm water, that can lead these storms to dissipate or to weaken. You get upwelling, we call it, colder water from beneath the ocean surface to work into the storm. Hurricanes are basically steam engines, and when they lose their power, they eventually start to weaken. But the water is so warm there, there's so much depth of warmth to the water. You probably haven't heard depth of warmth in water before. But anyways, it goes to show that this storm is going to potentially rapidly intensify. The European model has this as a major hurricane by next Sunday evening, just south of Jamaica. Then, what happens from there? There's its northeast turn. Eventually, it is going to make a turn to the northeast, whether it strikes Haiti, the Dominican, maybe even as far west as the Cayman Islands. It's unlikely that the Cayman Islands are impacted the way things look now. But with Melissa's kind of weird motion in the Caribbean, or lack thereof of motion over the next 5 days, it's possible. A Cuban landfall would be likely in this solution, and then it'd be working towards the Turks and Caicos and potentially the Bahamas as well. Down the line, would this impact the U.S. East Coast? Most likely not. But still, a little close for comfort here for the U.S. East Coast by the mid to latter part of next week. We showed you this yesterday. The European ensemble really does a good job of showing the uncertainty, the probability of a certain outcome happening. And most members here, of the 50 members, keep it away from making a landfall in Haiti by Friday. There are still a few members that make a landfall in just 3 days' time, less than that even, along the Haitian coast. But most members have Melissa continuing off to the west and stalling out here in the central and western Caribbean before there is going to be an eventual northeast turn. It cannot stay down here forever. It's going to get picked up by a trough that moves off the eastern half of the United States next week as it eventually does gain latitude and move north. A pretty good bit of certainty here. This is in a week, next Tuesday evening, of Melissa still in the western Caribbean and eventually making a landfall along the Cuban coast. And there is a chance that this could get close to southeastern Florida. I would quantify it less than 10% right now. This is what happened with Wilma back in 2005. You had a storm form down here and take kind of a hook-shaped path across Florida. It's always possible in these situations, but we are late enough in the year that cold fronts usually make their way far enough to the south and kind of act as a force field to Florida and the rest of the southeast U.S. coast. So that's our thinking right now. Melissa likely to strengthen, probably into a major hurricane in the central, the western Caribbean by this weekend, and then by the early to middle part of next week, eventually feel the steering currents from its north, and it will get sucked off to the northeast across what we'll call the maybe the Turks and Caicos, the Bahamas. I would stay on guard in the Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos, Cuba, and of course, including Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Puerto Rico, you are in the clear. This storm has moved far enough to the west. You would take something cataclysmic to change in regards to the forecast for any impacts in Puerto Rico. But anybody from Hispaniola through the Bahamas, even up to the Florida Keys in far southern Florida, plus Cuba, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, everybody in that zone needs to keep a close eye on Melissa. We're likely going to have yet another major hurricane this year and potentially a landfalling major hurricane. The only storm that's made landfall anywhere this year has been Chantal along the Carolina coast back in July. We're going to keep a close eye on this. This could be a storm that ends up being a marathon and then some in terms of coverage. We'll be here covering it here at Flash.